A single father who stopped for a stranger in the rain had no idea he was about to save two lives and heal his own shattered heart in the process. When Eli Morrow found Maya clutching her sick daughter at a bus stop on the worst night of her life, neither of them knew that one act of kindness would transform into the family both had lost. But before vows were spoken, and before two broken households became one, there was a custody battle that threatened to tear it all apart. Because Maya's past wasn't finished with her yet. And the man who'd abandoned her and their daughter 3 years ago suddenly wanted them back not out of love, but for reasons far more sinister. This is their story. Before we continue, please tell us in the comments where you are watching from. And don't forget to like and subscribe to see more of our stories. The windshield wipers beat a frantic rhythm against the October rain, but they were losing the battle. Eli Morrow leaned forward over the steering wheel of his old truck, squinting through sheets of water that turned the road into a blur of headlights and darkness. He should have been home an hour ago. Should have left the job site before the storm hit. But finishing that cabinet had felt important in the moment, gave him something to focus on besides the empty house waiting for him. Thunder cracked overhead, close enough that he felt it in his chest. The radio crackled with a weather warning he didn't need. Everyone in Forks, Washington knew what October storms looked like. You either learned to live with the rain, or you left. Eli had been born here. Rain was just background noise to grief. He was reaching for the radio dial when his headlights caught something at the bus stop ahead. A figure hunched on the bench, shoulders curved against the downpour. Probably just someone waiting for the last Route 7. Eli's foot hovered over the gas pedal, ready to keep driving like any sensible person would. But then the figure shifted, and he saw her more clearly. A young woman, maybe late 20s, holding something against her chest. No, not something. Someone. A child, small enough to be a toddler, wrapped in what looked like a thin jacket that was doing absolutely nothing against the rain. Eli's hands tightened on the wheel. "Keep driving," the careful part of his brain whispered. "You don't know her. It's not your problem. You have enough to deal with." But his foot was already moving to the brake. He pulled the truck to the curb, hazard lights blinking orange against the wet pavement. Through the rain-streaked passenger window, he could see her more clearly now. Dark hair plastered to her face, shoulders shaking from cold or crying. He couldn't tell. The child in her arms wasn't moving. Eli's heart lurched. He rolled down the window, rain immediately spattering his face. "Hey," he called out, keeping his voice gentle, non-threatening. "You okay?" The woman's head jerked up. Even in the terrible light, he could see her eyes were red and swollen. She clutched the child tighter, protective instinct, overriding everything else. "I'm fine." Her voice was hoarse, barely audible over the storm. "We're fine." She was absolutely not fine. Neither of them were. The child, a little girl, he could see now, had her face buried in her mother's neck. The woman's clothes were soaked through, and she was shivering so hard her teeth were chattering. "Bus stopped running 20 minutes ago," Eli said, which was probably true. He had no idea what the bus schedule was, but in weather like this, nothing ran on time. "You got somewhere to go?" "We're fine," she repeated, but this time her voice cracked. "Just waiting for someone." Eli recognized a lie when he heard one. He'd told enough of them himself over the past 2 years. "I'm fine. I'm handling it. I don't need help." All the things you said, when the truth was too heavy to speak out loud. "Look," he said, choosing his words carefully. "I don't know your situation, and you don't know me, but it's 38 degrees. You're soaked through, and that little one doesn't sound good." As if on cue, the child let out a wet, wheezing cough that made Eli's chest tighten with recognition. He knew that sound. Leo had sounded like that as a baby, before they figured out the asthma triggers. The woman's face crumpled. Just for a second, her whole careful mask fell away, and he saw raw desperation underneath. Then she pulled it back together, jaw tight. "I don't take charity," she said. "Not offering charity," Eli replied. "Offering a dry place to sit for a few hours until the storm passes. Maybe some hot coffee. You can leave whenever you want." He paused. "My name's Eli Morrow. I live about 10 minutes from here. I have a 6-year-old son named Leo. You can Google me if you want. I run Morrow Custom Carpentry. I'm not trying to be weird. I just can't drive past a kid coughing like that." The woman stared at him for a long moment. He could see the calculation happening behind her eyes, weighing risks against options, pride against need. The child coughed again, harder this time, and something in the woman's expression broke. "Maya," she whispered. "I'm Maya. This is Nina." She looked down at the child in her arms. "She has asthma. Her inhaler's almost empty. I was supposed to refill it yesterday, but I—" Her voice caught. "Things got complicated." Eli nodded slowly. "There's an all-night pharmacy on Route 101. We could stop there first if you need." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "I don't have money for the copay. I don't have—" She stopped herself, pressing her lips together like she'd already said too much. "We'll figure it out," Eli said, surprising himself. "Come on, let's get her warm first." For another few seconds, Maya didn't move. Then, slowly, she stood. She was taller than he'd expected, even hunched over to protect Nina from the rain. She walked to the truck like someone who'd run out of choices, opened the passenger door, and climbed in. Up close, Eli could see she was younger than he'd thought, maybe 27 or 28. Her face had good bones beneath the exhaustion, and her hands, though shaking from cold, moved with practiced efficiency as she adjusted Nina in her lap and reached for the seatbelt. "There's a blanket behind the seat," Eli said, cranking the heat up as high as it would go. "Not the cleanest, but it's dry." Maya pulled out the wool blanket, dusty, probably covered in sawdust, but warm, and wrapped it around Nina. The little girl whimpered but didn't wake. Her breathing was labored, each exhale a soft wheeze. Eli put the truck in gear and pulled back onto the road. For a few minutes, neither of them spoke. The only sounds were the rain hammering the roof, the heater blowing, and Nina's struggling breath. Finally, Maya said quietly, "Why did you stop?" Eli kept his eyes on the road. "Told you. Couldn't leave a kid out in weather like this. Most people would have." "Yeah, well." He shrugged. "I'm not most people." Clearly. There was something almost bitter in her tone, like kindness was a concept she'd stopped believing in. Eli understood that too. They drove in silence to the pharmacy. Eli parked under the awning and handed Maya 2 20s from his wallet before she could protest. "It's a loan," he said firmly. "Pay me back whenever." Maya stared at the bills like they were written in a foreign language. Then she took them, whispered, "Thank you," and disappeared into the bright fluorescent light of the store. Eli sat in the truck, listening to the rain and wondering what the hell he was doing. This wasn't like him. He kept his head down, stayed out of people's business, went to work, picked up Leo from his mother-in-law's house, made dinner, put his son to bed, and then sat in the dark living room until exhaustion finally pulled him under. He didn't pick up strangers, didn't invite complications into his carefully controlled grief. But there was something about the way Maya had held that child, fierce and terrified and utterly alone, that had reached past all his defenses and grabbed hold of something he thought had died with Claire. Maya returned 10 minutes later with a small paper bag and tears streaming down her face. "She wouldn't take my insurance," she said, voice shaking. "Said it was terminated yesterday. I didn't know. I thought I had until the end of the month." She pressed her hands to her face. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have. I'll pay you back. I swear I'll—" "Hey." Eli's voice was gentle but firm. "It's okay." Deep breath. "Did you get the inhaler?" Maya nodded, pulling a small blue device from the bag. She immediately administered it to Nina, who woke just enough to take 2 puffs before slumping back against her mother's shoulder. Within minutes, her breathing eased. The relief on Maya's face was so profound it hurt to look at. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know how to thank you." "You already said that." Eli put the truck back in gear. "Let's get you both somewhere warm." His cabin was small, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, kitchen barely big enough for a table, but it was dry and warm and paid for, which was more than a lot of people could say. He pulled into the gravel driveway and killed the engine. "This is it," he said. "Not much, but the heat works." Maya stared at the house like it was a palace. "You live here alone? With your son?" "Yeah. He's at his grandma's tonight. She keeps him on Thursdays so I can work late." Eli grabbed his work bag from the back. "Come on." Inside, the house smelled like sawdust, and the faint ghost of Claire's lavender soap. Eli still couldn't bring himself to throw out the last bottle. He flipped on lights, cranked up the thermostat, and pointed Maya toward the bathroom. "Hot shower's all yours. There's clean towels in the cabinet. I'll find you some dry clothes." Maya hesitated in the doorway, Nina heavy in her arms. I don't understand why you're doing this. Eli met her eyes. Neither do I. It was the truth. He didn't understand. Didn't understand why this stranger's pain felt like something he needed to fix. Didn't understand why the sight of her holding that sick child made his chest ache in ways that had nothing to do with his own loss. Shower, he said again, softer. We'll figure out the rest after. Maya nodded and disappeared into the bathroom. A minute later, he heard the water running. Eli stood in his quiet kitchen and wondered what he'd just invited into his life. 20 minutes later, Maya emerged wearing a pair of his old sweatpants rolled at the waist and one of Claire's sweaters, soft gray cashmere, that Eli had kept in a drawer, unable to donate but unable to look at. On Maya, it looked right somehow, like it had been waiting for someone who needed its warmth. Nina was wrapped in a towel, her wild dark curls damp and springing in every direction. She was awake now, big brown eyes taking in everything with solemn curiosity. I made coffee, Eli said, gesturing to the pot. And there's soup. Nothing fancy, just canned. But it's hot. You didn't have to. I know. He poured 2 mugs and set them on the small kitchen table. Sit. Saturday, Nina curled in Maya's lap, watching Eli with the particular wariness of a child who'd learned not to trust easily. He didn't try to talk to her, just ladled soup into bowls and set one in front of Maya. For a few minutes, the only sound was spoons against ceramic. Maya ate like someone who hadn't had a full meal in days, quick, efficient, eyes down. When she finished, she looked up at Eli, and some of the careful walls came down. I lost my job 3 weeks ago, she said quietly. Laid off from the hospital. Budget cuts. Then my landlord sold the building and the new owner wanted everyone out. Gave us 30 days, but I couldn't find anything I could afford in time. This morning, we got evicted. Everything I own is in a storage unit I can't pay for. She paused, jaw tight. I'm a registered nurse. I'm not. I didn't plan for this. I thought I had time. What about family? Eli asked. Dead or gone. My mom passed when I was 19. Never knew my dad. She looked down at Nina. Her father left before she was born. Hasn't seen her once. No child support, no contact. Just gone. Friends? Maya's laugh was hollow. Turns out people get real quiet when you stop being useful. I asked 3 people if we could crash for a few days. Everyone had reasons why they couldn't. She met his eyes. You're literally the first person who said yes. And you're a complete stranger. Eli turned his coffee mug in slow circles. My wife died 2 years ago. Cancer. By the end, all our friends had disappeared too. They didn't know what to say, so they said nothing. Stopped calling, stopped visiting. It was just me and Leo, and a house that felt too big and too empty at the same time. Maya's expression softened. I'm sorry. Me too. He set down his mug. Look, I've got a pull-out couch in the living room. It's not great, but it's dry and warm. You and Nina can stay tonight. Tomorrow, we'll figure out next steps. I know a guy at the county social services office. Maybe he can help with emergency housing or… I don't want a handout, Maya interrupted, pride flaring in her eyes. I'll find work. I'll figure it out. I just need a little time. Okay. Eli kept his voice even. So take the time, stay until you get on your feet. I can't just… You can. And you will. He stood, collecting the empty bowls. Because that little girl needs stability, and you need sleep. Everything else we'll deal with in the morning. Maya stared at him, tears welling again. Why are you being so kind to us? Eli looked at Nina, who'd fallen asleep again in her mother's arms, her breathing easier now. He thought about Leo, about the terrible months after Claire died when his son had stopped talking, stopped drawing, stopped being a kid. He thought about the neighbors who'd brought casseroles and platitudes but no real comfort, about the loneliness that had turned his house into a mausoleum. Because someone should have been kind to me, he said quietly, and no one was. That first night turned into 2, then a week, then a month. Maya found work at a rural health clinic 30 minutes away, part-time hours. No benefits yet, but it was something. Eli refused to take rent, so Maya contributed by cooking, cleaning, and watching Leo after school while Eli finished jobs. It wasn't a transaction. It was survival dressed up as cooperation. Leo, who hadn't spoken more than necessary since his mother's funeral, started talking again. Not to Eli, not yet, but to Nina. He'd sit on the floor with her and build block towers, explaining the physics of balance in his serious 6-year-old voice, while Nina demolished his work with gleeful abandon. Eli would watch from the kitchen, sawdust still in his hair from the day's work, and feel something shift in his chest. Not happiness, not yet, but the faint memory of what happiness used to feel like. Maya noticed. One evening, after the kids were asleep, she found him standing in the doorway of Leo's room, watching his son breathe. "He's okay," she said softly. "I know." Eli didn't move. "I just forget sometimes that he's still here." Maya stepped beside him. "You're a good father. I'm a mess. You're both." She smiled slightly. "That's allowed." They stood there in comfortable silence, shoulders almost touching, until Eli finally stepped back. "Thank you," he said, "for being here. For him, thank you for letting us stay." It became their ritual. Quiet thank yous in the dark. Neither quite believing their luck, winter came hard and fast. Snow buried the cabin, turning the world white and silent. Eli taught Leo and Nina how to build a snowman. Maya taught them all how to make terrible hospital cafeteria hot chocolate that somehow tasted perfect at 9 p.m. when they were all frozen and laughing. They became a unit without meaning to. Grocery runs turned into family outings. Homework happened at the kitchen table, with 2 kids and 2 adults crammed around it. Bedtime stories became a negotiation. Leo wanted adventure, Nina wanted princesses, and somehow Eli ended up inventing tales about warrior princesses who built castles out of reclaimed wood. Maya watched him with something warm in her eyes. Eli pretended not to notice. But cracks showed too. One night, Maya came down with the flu, nothing serious, just a bad cold. But when Eli saw her shivering and feverish on the couch, something in him shut down. He retreated to his workshop and didn't come out for hours, hands shaking as he planed wood that didn't need planing. Maya found him there near midnight. "You're allowed to be scared," she said. "I'm not." "You are. And that's okay." She sat on his workbench, fever bright eyes steady. "I'm not her, Eli. I'm not dying. It's just a cold. I know that. Do you?" He didn't answer. Couldn't. Because the truth was, he didn't know. Didn't trust that good things could stay. Didn't believe he deserved another chance at something like family. Maya reached out and took his hand. "I'm here. I'm staying. You don't have to be alone in this." It was the first time either of them acknowledged what was growing between them. Not romance, not yet. But something deeper. Partnership. Trust. The slow recognition that they were both broken in compatible ways. Spring arrived with wildflowers and the kind of soft rain that felt like forgiveness. Leo started calling Nina my sister without anyone correcting him. Nina started calling Eli Papa, a name that made his throat tight every time. And Maya started looking at Eli like he was something other than a temporary safe harbor. One evening, after the kids were asleep, they sat on the porch watching the sun set through the trees. The air smelled like pine and possibility. "I got offered full-time at the clinic," Maya said. "With benefits." "That's great." Eli meant it. "You deserve it. I've been looking at apartments. There's a 2-bedroom in town that's affordable now that I'll have steady income." Something cold settled in Eli's chest. "Oh," Maya turned to look at him. "Is that what you want? For us to leave?" "No." The word came out too fast, too raw. "But I don't want you to stay out of obligation either." "What if it's not obligation?" Her voice was quiet. "What if I stay because this is the first place that's felt like home in 5 years? What if Nina's happier here than she's ever been? What if I—" She stopped, swallowed hard. "What if I'm falling in love with the life we've built here?" Eli's heart was pounding. With the life? Or with both? Maya met his eyes. "I'm falling in love with both." He should have said something. Should have told her he felt the same. But fear locked the words in his throat. Maya stood. "Think about it. I'll understand if you need us to go, but if you want us to stay, really stay, then say so. Because I'm tired of pretending this is temporary." She went inside, leaving Eli alone with the sunset and the weight of a choice he'd been avoiding for months. That night, he lay awake in the dark and thought about Claire, about the life they'd planned and lost, about the guilt of wanting something new, about whether loving again meant betraying the love that came before. Somewhere around 3 a.m., he realized the answer. It didn't. Claire would have wanted him to be happy, would have wanted Leo to have a family, would have loved Maya for the way she'd brought light back into their broken house. Loving Maya didn't erase Claire. It honored her by proving that the capacity for love didn't die, it just transformed, grew, made room for more. 2 weeks later, everything fell apart. Eli was at a job site when his phone rang. Maya's name on the screen. He answered, expecting logistics about dinner or a question about Leo's soccer schedule. Instead, he heard her voice, thin with panic. He's here. Nina's father. He's at the clinic. He's demanding custody. Eli's blood went cold. What? His name is Derek Chen. He left before Nina was born. I haven't heard from him in 3 years. Her breath hitched. Eli. He's a lawyer. A good one. He's saying I'm unfit. That I was homeless. That I'm living with a man who's not family. He's threatening to take her. I'm on my way. Eli made the 30-minute drive in 20, breaking every speed limit. He found Maya in the clinic parking lot, pacing beside her car, phone pressed to her ear. When she saw him, she ended the call and fell into his arms. He says, he wants to be a father now, she said into his shoulder. Says he's engaged to someone politically connected and a daughter would be good for his image. He doesn't want her, Eli. He wants a photo op. He can't just take her. You're her mother. You've raised her alone. He has money, connections, and I was evicted. I was living on the street when you found me. Her voice broke. A judge could say I'm unstable, unfit. Eli pulled back, holding her shoulders. You're the best mother I've ever seen. You've sacrificed everything for that little girl. No judge with half a brain would. You don't know how this works. Maya's eyes were wild with fear. Money wins. Power wins. I'm a broke single mom living in someone else's house. He's a successful attorney with a pristine record. On paper, he looks like the better option. Then we changed the paper. Maya stared at him. What? Eli's mind was racing, pieces clicking together. We make you not a broke single mom living in someone else's house. We make you part of a stable 2-parent household with steady income and a permanent address. Eli, what are you? Marry me. The words hung in the air between them. Maya's mouth opened, closed, opened again. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. Eli took her hands. I should have said this weeks ago, but I was scared. I'm still scared, but I'm more scared of losing you and Nina. So marry me. Not for a custody battle, though that's a good reason. Marry me. Because I love you. Because Leo loves you. Because this family we've accidentally built is the best thing that's happened to me since Claire died. And I don't want to lose it. Tears streamed down Maya's face. You love me? So much it terrifies me. I love you too. She laughed through the tears. I've been in love with you since the night you gave me your dead wife's sweater and didn't make it weird. So is that a yes? That's a yes to everything. To you, to this, to making it real. She pulled him close, kissing him hard and desperate, and full of hope. Let's get married. Let's fight for our family. The custody battle was brutal. Derek Chen came armed with expensive lawyers and a narrative painted in righteous concern. A father who'd made mistakes but was ready to step up versus a mother with a history of instability. They painted Maya's eviction as neglect, her acceptance of Eli's help as dependence, her decision to marry as calculation. But they hadn't counted on one thing: the truth. The hearing took place on a gray morning in family court. Derek sat at one table, looking every inch the successful professional. Maya and Eli sat at another, holding hands so tight their knuckles were white. Derek's lawyer went first, presenting hospital records from the night Eli found them, Nina's asthma attack, Maya's lack of current address. They showed bank statements proving Maya had been behind on bills. They questioned whether her sudden marriage was genuine or strategic. Then it was their turn. Maya's lawyer called character witnesses. The clinic director who testified that Maya was the most dedicated nurse she'd ever supervised. Leo's teacher who spoke about the profound positive change in him since Maya entered his life. The pediatrician who confirmed Nina was thriving, healthy, happy, developing beautifully in a stable home environment. Then they called Eli. He sat in the witness box, very aware of Derek's cold stare, and told the truth. I found Maya and Nina at a bus stop in a storm. They had nothing. But Maya never asked for anything, never expected anything. She accepted help because her daughter needed it, and the moment she could contribute, she did. She didn't move into my house looking for a husband. She moved in looking for a chance, and she took that chance and built something beautiful for herself, for Nina, for my son, for me. Derek's lawyer stood. Mr. Morrow, isn't it true you proposed to Miss Reyes only after learning Mr. Chen intended to seek custody? Yes. So this marriage is a legal strategy, not a genuine relationship. Eli met the lawyer's eyes. The marriage is both. I proposed when I did because I was afraid of losing them. But I wanted to propose months ago. I was just too scared to admit I was ready to love again. He looked at Maya. She taught me that being broken doesn't mean you're finished. It just means you have room to grow into something new. The lawyer tried again. You've known Miss Reyes less than a year. How can you claim to know what's best for a child who isn't yours? She is mine. Eli's voice was firm. Maybe not by blood, but by choice. By showing up every day. By reading bedtime stories and wiping away tears and celebrating every small victory. That's what makes a parent. Not DNA. Not a signature on a birth certificate. Presence. The courtroom was silent. Finally, the judge spoke. I'd like to hear from the child. Everyone froze. Nina was only 3 too young for testimony under normal circumstances, but the judge's tone made it clear this wasn't optional. They brought Nina in. She wore the yellow dress Maya had sewn by hand, her wild curls tamed into 2 puffs. She looked impossibly small in the big courtroom. The judge leaned down. Hi, Nina. I'm Judge Patterson. I just want to ask you a few questions. Is that okay? Nina nodded, thumb in her mouth. Do you know why you're here today? Nina's eyes found Derek across the room. She looked at him for a long moment, then back at the judge. The man says he's my daddy, but I already have a daddy. The judge's eyebrows rose. You do? Nina pointed at Eli. Eli Papa. He makes me pancakes and fixes my toys and reads me stories about princesses who build things. I see. And what about your mommy? Mommy's the best. She's a nurse. She helps people feel better. Nina's face got very serious. She helps Eli Papa feel better too. He was sad before. Now he smiles. What about the man over there? The judge gestured carefully toward Derek. Do you know him? Nina shook her head. No, but he looks mean. A ripple of sound went through the courtroom, quickly silenced by the judge's look. Why do you think he looks mean? Because he's making mommy cry. And people who make mommy cry are mean. Out of the mouths of babes, Eli thought, watching Derek's carefully constructed facade crack just slightly. The judge nodded slowly. Thank you, Nina. You can go back to your mom now. Nina scrambled down and ran straight to Maya, who scooped her up and buried her face in those wild curls. Judge Patterson sat back, studying the papers before her. Finally, she spoke. Mr. Chen, I've reviewed your petition carefully, and I've noted your absence from your daughter's life for the first 3 years of her existence. No child support, no contact, no attempt at co-parenting. You have rights as a biological father, but rights come with responsibilities. Responsibilities you did not exercise when they were difficult or inconvenient. Derek's lawyer started to object, but the judge held up a hand. Miss Reyes, now Mrs. Morrow, has demonstrated consistent, devoted parenting under extraordinarily difficult circumstances. She has provided stability, love, and care, and she has built a family structure that clearly benefits the child. The judge's gaze moved to Eli. Mr. Morrow, you've taken on a role you didn't have to take on. You've opened your home and your heart to a child who needed both. That speaks to character. She closed the file. Petition for custody transfer is denied. Full legal custody remains with Maya Morrow. Mr. Chen, you may petition for visitation rights, but that will require demonstrating sustained commitment over time, not convenient timing. The gavel came down. We're adjourned. Maya's sob of relief echoed through the courtroom. Eli pulled her and Nina into his arms, the 3 of them holding each other while Derek Chen gathered his papers and walked out without a word. It was over. They'd won. 6 months later, on a warm June evening, Eli stood in the backyard of their cabin, no longer his, but theirs, and watched the golden light filter through the pine trees. Leo and Nina were playing tag, their laughter bright and wild. Maya was setting out mismatched plates on the picnic table they'd built together last month. Tomorrow, they'd have the wedding. Nothing fancy, bare feet in the grass, wildflowers in Nina's hair, Leo holding the rings like they were sacred treasure, just family and a handful of friends who'd actually showed up when it mattered. But tonight was just for them. Eli called everyone over. Leo and Nina came running, grass-stained and breathless. Maya walked over, wiping her hands on her apron, curiosity in her eyes. "I have something for all of you," Eli said. He pulled out 3 small boxes from his pocket. He handed the first to Leo. Inside was a wooden pendant carved into the shape of a tree, each branch representing a family member. "For my son, who taught me that love doesn't run out, it just grows new branches." Leo's eyes filled with tears. He threw his arms around Eli's waist. "I love you, Dad." "Dad." Not Eli. "Dad." Eli's throat closed. He kissed the top of Leo's head and handed the second box to Nina. Inside was a matching pendant, sized for her smaller neck. "For my daughter, who showed me that family isn't about who you start with, it's about who you choose to keep." Nina studied the pendant seriously, then looked up at him. "I choose you, Eli Papa." "I choose you too, sweetheart." Finally, he turned to Maya. The third box held a pendant on a longer chain, the tree again, but this one had roots that wrapped around the bottom. "For my wife," he said softly, "who pulled me out of the storm and taught me how to feel the sun again." Maya's hands shook as she lifted the necklace. "Eli, it's beautiful." "We're beautiful," he corrected. "This whole messy, accidental, impossible family. We're beautiful." They stood together in the golden light. 4 people who'd been broken in different ways but had somehow found each other in the rubble. 4 people who'd learned that healing wasn't linear, love wasn't limited, and family was something you built, not something you were born into. The next day, they married under the pines with bare feet and full hearts. Leo and Nina stood beside them, holding hands, already siblings in every way that mattered. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, Nina raised her hand. Everyone froze. The officiant blinked. "Yes, sweetheart? I object to waiting any longer. I want cake." Laughter rippled through the small gathering. Eli scooped Nina up, kissing her cheek. "You and me both, kid." The ceremony continued. Vows were spoken, promises to show up, to be patient, to choose each other daily. Rings were exchanged. And when Eli kissed Maya, Leo and Nina cheered louder than anyone. That evening, after the guests left and the kids were finally asleep, Eli and Maya sat on the porch swing, legs tangled together, watching the stars come out. "Do you ever think about that night?" Maya asked. "The bus stop? Every day. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd kept driving?" Eli was quiet for a moment. "Yeah. And it terrifies me, because I almost did. I almost convinced myself it wasn't my problem." Maya turned to look at him. "What changed your mind?" "Honestly, I don't know. Instinct, maybe. Or maybe some part of me recognized that you were drowning, and I knew what that felt like." He pulled her closer. "I thought I was saving you that night. Turns out you were saving me too. We saved each other," Maya said softly. "And we'll keep saving each other. Every day. That's what family does." Eli kissed her temple. "Best decision I ever made. Stopping that truck. Best decision I ever made was getting in it." They sat in comfortable silence, wrapped in each other and the soft sounds of the forest. Inside, their children slept safely. Around them, the life they'd built together hummed with quiet contentment. Sometimes the person you pull out of the storm is the one who teaches you how to feel the sun again. And sometimes, saving someone else is the first step in saving yourself. But most importantly, sometimes family isn't the one you're born into. It's the one you build from broken pieces, patience, and the radical choice to keep showing up even when it's hard, even when it's scary, even when every instinct tells you to protect yourself. Because love, real love, isn't about avoiding pain. It's about deciding someone is worth the risk. And Eli Morrow, standing on his porch with his wife in his arms and his children sleeping soundly inside, knew without question they were worth everything. If this story moved you, hit that like button. drop a comment sharing one small act of kindness that changed your life, and share this with someone who needs hope today. Most importantly, subscribe to Humble Heart Stories so you never miss reminders that healing is possible. Till next time.